How's my hair, guys? Is my hair okay? I did it for you. Anyways, so today we're going to talk about these beautiful Denali D4 LED lights. Before I dive into it, I want you guys to know that I am a brand ambassador for Twisted Throttle and Denali Electronics. So they did provide these to me. They did not pay me to do a review, but they did provide to me for free of cost. And that's something when you're brand ambassador, they give you products. So then this way you can install them on your bike and you can give them feedback and then also help the community make a more educated purchase. So that's what we're going to be doing with these. I'm going to talk briefly about them and then we're going to go straight into the install. So these mammoths, if you haven't seen them before, they put out some intense light. You'll see the footage of that at the end of the video after I do the install, but they are really good. I've had other companies before, and I have to say that these are pretty good. With that package, I've also got the fork tube kit because that's where I installed them, and yeah, I mean they're pretty straightforward. The hardest thing you guys are going to have is the actual wiring harness setup itself. The Scrambler is not easy to set this up. I will just tell you that right now. I've worked on a lot of bikes and there's very little room on that Scrambler to run the wiring harness. It's straightforward. I mean, it's plug and play, don't get me wrong. But the actual where you're going to hide the wires and how you're going to run them and things like that, that is where it is a little tricky. So if you guys aren't mechanically savvy and don't have some decent tools, I wouldn't do this. I would let your dealer do it for you. It'd probably be about 2.5 hours of labor, maybe 3, and yeah, then it'll be set up real nice and you guys won't have any problems. So from that being said, we're going to go ahead and roll the intro and dive right into it.
Hello, it's Center Rider, DMC, intercom, mode.
After the removal of the seat, you're going to begin step 1. You're going to need a 10mm, either open end, box end, or socket, your choice. And then I have a 8mm. You're going to go over here to the flange, and this is your bolt for your tank. This is going to be the 10mm, and then on this side it's going to be the 8mm. You're going to loosen that up and pull it out. Alright, once the bolt's off, you'll put a little up pressure, and it'll just pull right out. Nice and easy. Alright, we're going to go ahead on to the next step. We'll call this one step 2. And then from here, you're going to take your bracket, you're going to loosen it up. And I am going to be using the non-knurled section up here. So as high as it can go. And then I'm going to lock it in place. And then it's just going to be up there loose for now. And we'll figure out the exact placement of it later on. Alright, so with the bracket loosely in place, we've now got the wiring harness here. We'll kind of just lay it out on the bike and get it ready to be installed. It's pretty straightforward. Once you have the tank loose, you can slip everything in place, and it's plug and play for the most part. Alright, so once you have the wiring harness somewhat laid out the way it's going to be, obviously it's going to be going underneath the tank. And then you've got your switch up here and your other lines down there to connect up your lights. I'm going to go ahead for my next step and install the switch bracket, and I'll be using the smaller of the 2 brackets. It's going to go on the left hand side, that's where you want this switch to be, and it's just going to slip in right back here. Pull it all the way up so it's as far as it can go, and then it's got 2 holes, and it comes with these little itty bitty screws that are going to screw into the back of this unit here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Alright, to gain access to the battery now, you're going to need to remove these screws, 1, 2, and 3 for back here. There's going to be a wire that's going to be hooked up to this, but it'll just move out of the way. See the wires there? Just let it sit back there on the exhaust, no big deal. This is now giving you access to your battery terminals, and that's what we're going to do, have open and exposed for us as we run the lines through. Something I want to add, there is a vent hose right here. You're going to want to pull that off. It'll be easier to have someone help you pull the tank to the side. And yes, it's going to be a 2-person job to hold the tank unless you're really skilled at balancing. But yeah, just pull it off. It might leak a little bit. You can stick your finger over it, and once you get it on its side, it won't be leaking out. All right, continuing with the wiring harness setup. I'm leaving enough free play up here to turn it left and right. I'm going to hide this relay here. The posi tap I'm actually going to put directly to the battery itself. I'm going to change the wiring around a little bit, but as you guys can see, I wired it through here. I zip tied here. I'm going to zip tie here. I'm going to put the tank back on and make sure everything fits with a good clearance. Alright, so I've managed to figure out how I'm going to run the wires. They're tucked in here underneath the flange of the tank. Don't worry about this white wire yet. I zip tied here, I zip tied there to keep it as tight as I could to the frame. And then right here I marked a section where I'm just going to file it out, so then that big wire that's going to the battery will allow the plate to set in a little more easily, because right now it's a little tight and I don't want any chafing. So I'm going to just clean that up a little bit, and then we'll go on to what I'm going to do with the white wire after that. Alright, so I'm going to take my file and I'm just going to work it a little bit. Once I get it started where I know it needs to be, then I'm going to take the tape away here. Take that tape off now, get rid of that. Alright, so I got a nice little radius on it. We're going to drop it in place. You guys can see how it lines up. It's all nice and lined up. There's plenty of room in there now, so it's not going to chafe. And we know that's squared away. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the white wire here. It's got the posi tap on it. I'm actually going to remove that posi tap, and I'm going to go with a direct lead to the battery, so I wouldn't pick that up. And this way I don't have to tap in to anything on the electrical at all. It's always going to be back here. Alright, I got the terminal connected. Now we're going to put it directly to the 12 volt, and we'll tighten everything up, clean up the wires a little bit more, and we will be ready to do a little demo. Alright, so now I'm on the cleaning up of the wire stage here, just making sure I like how everything fits and how it's all connected. I'm running this line here up to the wire section here, and I've zip tied it, and then I'm looping it back around to go underneath the tank here. The switch wire up here I actually have going from here down and around. I don't like that. I'm going to change that. So I'm going to run this switch wire over here to this wire loom, follow this down, go underneath here, and then it's going to connect here. From this point, I'm going to then bring it back underneath the tank. On the other side, similar scenario, running it here. I did zip tie it here. I'm not a huge fan of how that looks, but that's the best thing I've got. I came around backside, attached the zip tie here, a zip tie up here, and then again it connects up here, goes underneath the tank, and then back to the seat, as you guys know. I think it's the best that I could figure out, and if you guys have something better, please let me know. I could not find any other helpful videos on YouTube of how to do this. So this was me thinking outside the box here on how I can make it work for this bike. Yeah, got comments, questions, hit me up. I'm gonna find the link that Twisted Throttle did on how to properly align these, because their video is really good. So I'll post that up in the video probably right about now. All right, I want to leave you with 2 pro tips that I learned after the fact. When tightening up the clamp here, I would take this portion off. It's got an Allen screw on it. This way you get to this bolt easier to tighten this down. Once you do that, then put this one back on, put some Loctite on it, and you'll be squared away. When I say this one, I mean this connection bar right here. There's a little screw in there. The second pro tip is leave this a little loose, because you see how you got a screw here you got to tighten? Bingo. You need to be able to go on the other side and tighten it as well. So to do that, if that top bolt up here is loose, all you have to do is go and turn it. Now you've got access to get to it. It makes it so much easier. Then you turn it back in place. Once you get it lined up again, then you go and you tighten it down. You're squared away. You won't have to worry about anything. All right, cheers guys.